Awkward at all. Good evening and welcome to Edmonton Freedom Central. My name is Benita Peterson and I'm one of the contributors here at Edmonton Freedom Central. On this broadcast tonight, we're going to be talking about saying no, how to say no when you have various people attempting to intimidate you, and also how to teach kids and youth to say no. We are living in strange times right now, and there are a lot of forces at work that attempt to intimidate us to follow a new set of rules. However, this is a set of rules that does not resonate with the majority of the people, and therefore pushback is required, including saying no. The reasons for Edmonton Freedom Central to be broadcasting are multifaceted. Edmonton Freedom Central exists so that we can seek the truth and speak the truth. Our objective is to educate, encourage, and inspire our viewers to take action of some sort during these times, to push back when necessary, to demonstrate resistance, and also to build spirit and empower one another. I consider it a privilege to be a host on this show, and I thank all viewers for watching. And one of the ways that you can help us is to share this broadcast. Share this broadcast out right now on your page and perhaps on some group pages as well, if you're up to that. We appreciate that very much. Another way you can support Edmonton Freedom Central, if it's on your heart to do so, is you can send a donation to the email address at the bottom of the screen. You contribute to our broadcast by sending an e-transfer to Edmonton Freedom Central at shaw.ca, and we appreciate your support. Thank you ever so much. So the topic tonight is just saying no. And you might recall that we had a guest not that long ago who had an experience December 4th at Prairie Mall in Grand Prairie. Her name is Veronica, and she's our first guest on the show tonight. Later in the show, we'll be hearing from Cody Kuntz, Selena Paley, and Pat King. So please share out this broadcast and let's get started. Welcome, Veronica. Welcome. How are you doing tonight?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I'm so glad you could tune in and be with us this evening. How are things going in general these days for you?
Really, really busy. Lots of messages and lots of people reaching out. Sorry, I forgot to mute here behind me. There we go. Yeah, lots of people reaching out and lots of people messaging for support and thanks for standing up. And yeah.
Yes, what you did on December 4th, I think impacted a lot of people. I was very impressed when I saw your video, and you were inside that mall. You had driven 2 hours to be there just to do some shopping. You picked up some food for your children, and all you wanted to do was find a place to sit and enjoy it. Can you summarize what happened when you were seeking a place to sit?
Yeah, so for those who haven't seen the video, lots have seen the video, but so yeah, the video shows that I showed up. I questioned why I couldn't sit in the food court, why I wasn't privy to a table as everybody else. I had my kids, my family with me, and I challenged it because it bothered me a lot that I was being segregated. When I questioned, and all I wanted to know was where was I to sit? Where were other people to sit in a similar situation that weren't going to show proof of vaccination? So I'd asked them to show me where I was to sit, and instead of showing me, he said, "Yeah, just hang on a second." And he actually sent me to called over more security guards. Rather, more security came over, and then they come over and they're quite assertive and aggressive right from the beginning. So that kind of set me off. And then the they banned me from the mall. They escorted me out. They tried to shoo me out the first door we came to. And I said, no, I'll go to the end door where we parked because it's cold out. And at the end, they tried to make me go outside, keep going without taking my kids, putting their jackets and their hats on without taking them outside. And I said, no, I'll wait. I'll get them dressed first and then we'll go outside. And then, during that whole process, the one guy, he, the tall, thinner guy, security that you can see there, he's making threats at me. Do you want me to take you down in front of your kids? And, my daughter was getting pretty scared at that point. And the fact that he was trailing me the whole time, it was a pretty aggressive situation. But it gathered a lot of attention because things like this are happening every day and it's just not on video. People don't think to grab their video because you're in a state of shock, essentially. Like, I mean, your heart's going, it's a lot of anxiety, it's a lot of stress, and people just don't think about grabbing their phones to film this stuff and to send it out there. And so when this video went viral, it was insane. Benita, after your and I interview last time, you know, my dad had called me and said the next day, and he's like, yeah, so I seen this video. And of course he's not at all like-minded. So he was questioning some things that he clearly doesn't understand. So, but the fact that it made the East Coast within days, I think the video on YouTube now has over 150,000 views is amazing. You know, I think that's awesome. And since then, so it started the day before. Josh is his name. He's the firefighter that people are talking about that was arrested in the mall. And I actually connected with him and last weekend. And so I kind of got his backstory as well. And it's really interesting because he was told he was not allowed to eat in the mall, period. So that's why he got arrested, because he sat on the floor to eat. And he's like, well, I'm going to sit down and eat my meal. And they asked him to move. He moved. He's continued to eat, and then they arrested him. He was completely, his composure was so on point. He was so calm through the whole thing. So anyway, so for them to arrest him, and then for me, they didn't arrest me. They just, scurried me out of the mall and harassed me on the way out with my kids. But but they did tell me I could sit down the hall and eat, at a different location, but yet he couldn't do that. So it's interesting to see that, I don't think anybody really knows what these rules are that are set into place, and everybody's just kind of being dictated to and just doing what they can, right? But
wow. Well, your story is inspirational. You kept your composure under pressure. Can you teach us one trick of how to keep our composure under pressure?
It's not easy, for sure. I'm pretty quick to react. With anger, as with most people are, because it's a stressful thing. Like I said, that's your instinct is, if somebody meets you with anger, you want to meet them with that back, and because you feel threatened. For me that day, the composure was because of my kids. I knew I couldn't go off too hard because they're there, and ultimately I didn't want to get arrested. I didn't want this guy to put his hands on me. That would have been worst case scenario for sure. So my biggest thing, and you can't see in the video, I was pretty upset. I was shaking. I was pretty upset about the whole thing.
You seemed calm. It didn't come through that you were that upset. You came across as calm. So well done. I don't know if you do deep breathing or what you did, but you did something there.
But yeah, I've had a lot of messages from moms specifically that said, man, I can't believe how calm you were. I would not have been that calm. I said, trust me, on the inside, I wasn't. I was, especially when he was threatening to take me down. And I said, and actually in the beginning of the video where he first approaches me, that one security guard, and I said, don't you touch me, because at that point I thought he was going to go directly hands-on with me. And I was thinking, if he touches me, oh my God, what's going to happen next? Right? I'm not going to go down easy, but my kids are here. So what do I do? Right? Because obviously, again, I don't want them to see that or whatnot. So anyway, you just have to tell yourself, remind yourself of your surroundings. The biggest thing for me, because I've been addressed for the mask issue in the public before, and the biggest thing is to take out your phone. Even if you don't hit the record button, they don't know that. The other person doesn't know that, or who's ever, saying something. So as soon as you take out your phone, chances are they're going to back off. They're going to run away because they don't want people. Nobody wants to be on camera, right? Especially, it just makes them take a beat and say, okay, well, maybe I shouldn't have said anything. It kind of holds them accountable for their actions as well. So that's my biggest line of defense. Take out your phone and start recording. If you can, delete it later if you need to. It's just a line of defense. And then as for, just remember your surroundings, and you don't owe anybody an explanation. You don't have to say anything. You can certainly look at them and say, have a great day. That's one thing I've noticed, is the anger that comes out with people with all of these issues. I've certainly seen some comments that are pretty disgusting. There's no other term for it. You know, some people have commented that I shouldn't have my kids and whatnot. And it's like the mean comes out because God forbid that they're wrong in this, right? God forbid they're on the wrong side. And with freedom fighters, Benita, I don't know if you've experienced the same thing, but we're pretty humble. Like, I haven't seen much anger in between us, you know? So even against those that aren't as pleasant with us.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So even when, someone is coming to you, and I faced a similar thing December 4th as well, when I was at West Edmonton Mall and I had security as well as Edmonton Police Services after me. Even though we have these people coming at us, they're attempting to intimidate us. Sometimes they're being downright unpleasant. Sometimes they're being threatening. Yes, it is possible to stay calm. And I think staying calm is key. I think if you start to get upset, the situation is going to escalate, right? So if you start to raise your voice, speak in a higher pitch, start to speak fast, start swearing. I encourage people in general to do what you did in that video. Stay calm, speak slow, state clearly, refrain from swearing, keep your cool. Those are my recommendations. And that's what you did, Veronica. So I thought that was really, really well done in that video there. We're going to show a clip now from a different group who ended up at that same mall on December 11th. And it was a larger group of people. They had heard about what had happened to Veronica on December 4th. And they went to the mall. Check this out. So the police, very intimidating behavior, sticking a camera in people's faces, some interactions there. They're being very intimidating. However, there is a large crowd of supporters, freedom fighters like myself and Veronica. Listen to this.
This is not Germany. Have you ever heard of the Canadian Constitution?
I love that guy.
Anything that doesn't.
That's fine. You can put your mask on or you can leave the mall, okay? And if you don't, then you could face the $4,800 penalty or criminal charges, okay?
I'll fight that too.
Okay, that's fine. But you guys are welcome to do that.
$4,800 for a mask.
$4,800
You're fucking hilarious.
So were you there, Veronica? Were you at this event?
I was. So what had happened, so it was just a spiral event, and coincidentally, like none of these events and videos that had occurred were connected in any way. It's a snowball effect. People are pissed off. People have had enough, and it's showing. And so what had happened, I connected with Josh, and the firefighter from the day before, and he had said, "Oh, so you didn't you didn't have your incident because of my incident?" I said, "No, I had no idea about your incident until after the fact." And then my incident happened. And then the next day there was another group. Some of them are in that video there, but some of them, they had showed up the next day after my original incident, and they all sat down, but they were all men. And so they sat down, they ate their meal. The security came over, the same security guard, the one that was harassing me quite a bit. So they had their meal. That security officer had quite a different tone. And then the guys, they had their meal, and that was fine. Everything was, they called the police on the men that were there eating their meal, but they never showed up. So that was interesting. Eventually the guys left. And then somebody had made a post in one of our groups and said, "Guys, I'm going to the mall shopping with my family, and I'm going to sit down and I'm going to eat a meal on Saturday." So that was this past Saturday. And so I said, I need to go to this. I need to just be there, even if I'm just calm and not really much of anything, but because the messages of support and encouragement and everything else that I had received, people thanking me for giving them, an eye opener, or giving them some, way to go. Thanks for standing up. Like, this is what we need. So I went. And it was like, from the second I stepped in that mall and walked all the way from the one end, I had people staring at me, hugging me, like, "Hey, I know who you are." And it was really overwhelming. It was like in a good way, really positive. So that event, the guy, and there's so many videos because none of it was organized. It was just basically show up at this time. We're going to sit down and we're going to eat, and nobody's going to tell us we're not going to. And so, of course, the police were there. They were on, and we anticipated that. I had anticipated that anyway. But they were just like what you see in the video. That's all they were doing. It was like an intimidation tactic, but it wasn't working. And actually, people were getting very upset. Like the guy in the video telling him to get bent over the ticket. I loved it because the cop actually came up to me at one point too when I first arrived in the food court. And he said, you need a mask on if you're going to be here. And I said, no, I'm mask exempt. And he says, well, okay then. And then he marches off to tell the next person he needs a mask. He didn't ask to see it or anything. And I'm not going to lie, the tension was very, very high there because we didn't know what the police were actually going to do, right? Like why, we knew why they were there, but what extent were they going to go to? The guy with the camera, I mean, that was all an intimidation tactic. I mean, whether they're going to throw an investigation and try to throw charges later, who knows, but they're all going to get thrown out if it's over mass stuff. I mean, it was overall, it was fairly peaceful, but that officer was creating a lot of tension with the mask with the camera and whatnot. And so it was getting pretty serious. There was people screaming like face to face with officers. They were chest to chest. And so at one point I did think, oh my gosh, maybe this is going to get pretty serious. And then somebody erupts with "Oh Canada." And it was the most amazing act of patriotism I've ever witnessed, I've ever experienced. I don't know if you want to show that clip.
Yeah, yes. Oh, I hope we have the video.
It was goosebumps. And everybody that I shared my video with,
in the mall.
same thing. Yeah, goosebumps for sure.
Yeah, here we go.
Okay, I need to bring things back.
We got a really good reason in this country to get amped up right now.
Sure you do.
The genocide going on with the vaccine, it's not even a vaccine. We got a really good reason to get amped up.
Sure you do, and that's your right.
You know what I mean?
Sometimes it's standing up. It's men seem to have a lot of power here. Cops treat men different than women, I'm noticing. Listen.
And just everybody in.
Look how the police are backing off.
I bet you they really questioned what they were standing for in that moment.
This makes me so happy. So that happened at Grand Prairie Mall on Saturday, December 11th. Yes?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
So it's another way of pushing back. And I'm noticing safety in numbers. When we join together and we're in big numbers, it's harder for them to intimidate us. Yeah,
absolutely. I know my girlfriend that I had, we walked in together and then we walked out together, but she was really nervous after, because we had seen what happened to you at West Edmonton Mall, how they followed you out and then they, opened your car and whatnot. So we were really nervous that was going to happen. And I said, oh, whatever, like, let's just go. I mean, they know they're in the wrong. We haven't done anything wrong. We showed up at the food court, grabbed some poutine. I stood there and ate it and then we left, So yeah, I mean, the fear is there as well because we all want to look out for ourselves and we all have families at home too. Like, nobody wants to get thrown in jail for something, especially really bogus, right? And then have that. But Grand Prairie is definitely pushing back. There's some people, there was a comment I seen, somebody had said, thanks for making Grand Prairie look, like the asshole of Canada, pardon my language there. But No, I think you make Grand Prairie look like that by not standing up, because this and these videos, people are standing up and saying, we're done. We're done. We're all standing together. And so many more people are standing up. And I'm so happy for that. I hope that more people continue to stand up with these videos. So.
Yep. I think that's really important. So with my video, I went live on Facebook in part for my own protection, because I didn't know what was about to happen. And if I was about to be arrested, I wanted someone to know. So, and all I had done was walk through a mall with a mask and a camera with a group of people. Big deal. And anyway, so I went on live, but then I had an interaction first with an Edmonton Police Services officer and then with a mall security officer. And although these, gentlemen were there to issue me an injunction, I treated them with courtesy, and I just asked them questions, and whether they were annoyed by my questions or whatever. One of my suggestions to people, if they're ever in this circumstance, is don't take the paperwork right away. They have paperwork for you and they really want you to take it, but don't take it right away. If possible, don't take it at all. But sometimes you have to accept it, and sometimes you have to leave. There's escalating a situation and de-escalating a situation. So if we get angry and we get right in their face and we start yelling and swearing, that's escalating the situation. There are things we can do to de-escalate it. Breaking out into song might be one of them. Singing "O Canada" might be one of them. Backing down and saying, okay, I'll go, is another way. I really don't want to see freedom fighters arrested. I know there are times we have to make a stand, but I'd rather people didn't. And I'd rather people are constantly reading the situation and choosing a strategy. And it's a good idea to talk to your group in advance and sort of organize a plan. This is what we're going to do if this happens. This is what we're going to do if this happens, so that the people are working together in some sort of congruity and in those moments. So those are some of my recommendations. Can you recommend anything with regards to de-escalating a situation, or knowing when to leave the situation, or better yet, teaching kids about managing these types of situations? Oh, you're muted.
Oh, there we go. My daughter has she's learned from me for sure. She has no problem telling people she's mask exempt now. Initially, she was really nervous, but she has no problem saying that now. And she is, through watching me, she has come to her own, and she'll tell people, and she's not rude about it. And I tell her, you don't have to be rude about it. You don't have to stop walking. Just keep walking, turn around, face, answer very politely, and keep going. So she's able to do that now, and she encourages her friends the same way, right? And through a lot of my interactions, I'm not rude. I'm very matter of fact. Okay, no, I have a mask exemption, or no, I think I'll go this way. What you've seen in the video, that's pretty much how I am with if I need to say anything. So I think the biggest thing, we had mentioned, just staying calm, remembering your surroundings, and the tone of voice and your body image is everything. If you're not in an aggressive stance or an aggressive position with somebody, then typically that person's not going to come at you with aggression.
Yep. So those are excellent suggestions. In general, I've learned talk low and slow. Yeah. If you talk low and slow versus high pitched and excited and fast, talking low and slow helps bring it down and de-escalate. So thank you for those suggestions, Veronica. You've been a great guest tonight. I have some other guests to interview, so I'm going to move on to them. But thank you for being a great guest. You've just been terrific. I really appreciate this.
Thanks for having me again, Benita.
Okay, and we might have you back again, because I'm sensing you've got more stories to tell. So thank you, Veronica. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Edmonton Freedom Central. Please share out this broadcast. In just a few moments, we're going to be interviewing Cody Kuntz from Saskatchewan, and then we'll hear from Selena Paley and Pat King. So please share out this broadcast about saying no, how to stand up to those who are attempting to intimidate you and keeping your composure, and also how to teach children and youth to do the same. We'll be back in just a few moments with Cody Kuntz.
Put your mask on. No, you gotta wear it on, honey.
No, you gotta keep it on.
Are you looking for the perfect formula to raise your child to be immunocompromised? Would you like to condition your kids to be anxiety-ridden antisocial freaks? Introducing Trust the Experts. This one-step program will have your child naturally develop mental illness, a weakened immune system, and a spiritual void inside of themselves where a wholesome childhood should be. Who needs fresh air and socialization when you can trust the experts? Let's face it, these vaccines are basically mandatory now. Your body doesn't belong to you anymore, and neither does your children. They belong to the state. Embrace the new normal and volunteer your child for experimental, routine, untested injections for the greater good of science. I do it because I trust the experts. Warning: trusting the experts may cause cowardice, extreme depression, loss of humanity, loss of independent thought, upset stomach, and diarrhea. Hail Satan. It's important to remember you're a helpless idiot. You can't do anything yourself. So keep drinking that beer or wine, scrolling through TikTok, and not really caring about the future of your generation and your generation's children. The government loves you. Don't trust your maternal instinct. Trust the experts and allow today's trauma to last a lifetime.
Wear a mask to school. Hi ho the Dario. I wear a mask to school. It helps to keep me safe.
Our producer enjoys humorous commercials. I don't personally endorse every message presented on this show, just so that you're all aware. My name is Benita Peterson, and I'm with Edmonton Freedom Central. And in general, our goal is to seek the truth and speak the truth. With that being said, it's nice sometimes to share a little humor and make fun of some of the stuff that's going on today. Our next guest is Cody Kuntz. Cody Kuntz is from Saskatchewan, but he's visiting Edmonton, Alberta this week. Who is Cody Kuntz, you might wonder? He's a young activist that was kicked out of high school and university for telling the truth and expressing his views. He even been thrown in jail twice, but that has not deterred him in the least. He is determined to continue inspiring men and women and youth and children of all ages about pushing back. Please welcome Cody Kuntz. Good to see you, Cody. I'm so glad you could be here today.
Thank you for having me, Benita.
Oh, this is super. And I hear you're in Edmonton this week.
I am. I'm so excited to be at the Ledge this weekend on Saturday, and hopefully to do some shopping, some Christmas shopping at the mall or a couple stores this weekend as well.
Well, that is just super. I'll be at the Alberta Legislature as well. 11:30 a.m. is when the music starts. Then there's speeches and music and even a little bit of poetry between 12 noon and 1. And then we're going to march in the streets. Are you up to marching with us, Cody? What do you say?
Absolutely. Marching is my favorite part of the whole entire program. I absolutely love it.
Perfect. Well, we might even have a sign for you to carry.
I hope so. I hope so.
Super. Well, I'm so glad you could be on the show tonight to talk with us about saying no and about keeping one's composure when you are being intimidated. So can you speak a little bit about that? Because you've, of course, had your moments where various people have attempted to intimidate you.
I have. And, the number one thing that I like to say is just keep calm and stay collective because, we don't want to, like you said, escalate any issues and just we don't want to be thrown in jail because it's not a fun time. We don't want to be issued tickets, as much as they're toilet paper, but it is a hassle to go through the court system and to fight them. And, it costs a little bit of money every now and again. So it's just easier if we can try and avoid that at all costs. And, what I do when I go into a store is, I usually just say, if they say, do you want a mask? I say, thank you. And I keep walking and that's all I will acknowledge them. Sometimes the odd time they'll come after me and say, oh, do you need a mask? And, you need to wear a mask. I says, no, I'm mask exempt. And then I keep walking. You know, the best stance is to be super calm, super collective, and just act like you own the place. That is the easiest thing for me, and the easiest what I've been telling people. You walk in there like you own the store, and then, you know, you don't have really any issues, because you know, you don't want to walk in there scared, because then you might have some issues. You know, people will, you know, they'll easier to walk on you and kind of control you. But if you just, you know, walk in there calm, collective, you know what you want to say. If something happens, or if they come after you, you know, that's the best thing to that I recommend doing, and it's been working for me and all my friends. You know, just super walk in there, and I don't really have many issues, so it's super awesome to be able to shop.
So what are some of the components of a confident body language? When you say walk in like you own the place, what do you mean by that?
So when you walk in, just, you know, if they come after you and they, you know, ask you at the door, they kind of stop you. Just don't be scared. Don't worry, and don't let them kind of control you. Just kind of walk in and just, you know, be brave and be strong.
Okay. I'm liking these suggestions. I know another way to feel empowered is, of course, to be armed with information, because when you've got the information and the knowledge and the ability to express it, you feel more confident and empowered, which therefore might affect also how you walk. Can you expand on being empowered with information?
That is the number one thing I like to tell people as well. You know, when you're informed, it's super easy. You know, you can inform them, because many of the workers are just following what they're told, and they are uneducated and they don't know. So, you know, if you just simply say a mandate is not a law, and you kind of explain to them your rights and, you know, how it works, and just, you know, have a little bit of education, many of them will sit down and actually listen to you. You know, I went to the co-op today, and I kind of explained it to this this older lady, and she had no issue. She didn't know. She didn't know there was medical exemptions, and she didn't know you know, the rights and stuff, and she had no issues with me shopping there. So it really depends on, you know, the situation, the person you're talking to, if it's a security guard, if it's a worker, but 99% of them are just uneducated, and they're just doing what they're, you know, told to do, and they think that what they're doing is right. But most of the time you can even just talk to them, and hopefully they're understanding and will take the time to listen to you.
So when seeking information, what are some of the best places to go to get info? And what are your thoughts on doing experiments to be prepared so you can share information?
So, you know, the number one thing is just doing your research, you know, looking up these jabs, and looking up, you know, the trials and the errors, and, you know, going on DuckDuckGo, and just, you know, looking up mask exemptions, and, you know, the rights and your rights, the Canadian freedom, I forget what that's called now, rights and freedoms, and, you know, just knowing all your information, you know, what the government guidelines are, even to know those, because many people in Saskatchewan thought that you had to be vaccinated, and that's it to go out to the grocery store, or to go to a restaurant, wherever. But to go, you know, to a restaurant, or to a bar, or to a concert, you can also show a negative COVID test. You know, so there's always other options, and you just got to kind of look into the government website, as crappy as it is. But, you know, sometimes it's good to look at their guidelines and see if they have things in there. Because many of the times it's labeled in there that, you know, you just need a PCR test within 72 hours, and, you know, you're good to, you know, do these events and stuff, which many people don't know. So it's just going out and researching, and, you know, if something comes to your mind and you think, oh, maybe I have a question on that, try and look it up, try and rewording it, because the answer is probably out there somewhere, whether it's in a Facebook group, whether your friend has the answer, or whether it's just on the internet. There's probably an answer for your question.
Thank you for sharing that. And sometimes the answers come from the government's own websites.
Exactly.
And it's not the answers you think when you analyze them. It's so interesting. I know of a fellow who his work put some pressure on him to get double jabbed, so that he could go to the States for training. And so he did. He went and got double jabbed so he could go to the States for training, and came back. And not once was he asked to show his proof of the double jab. Now, this was over a month ago. But he was asked for a test. So I found that very interesting. He'd been jabbed, but they didn't care. They wanted the test. They wanted the negative test. And so, speaking of negative tests, you've got some kind of test with you. What have you brought us? to share with us?
I do, Benita. So I got a couple tests today these are the government of Saskatchewan tests that they're using. These are the rapid tests. And I was given these today, and I thought, I wonder how accurate these are, because I was told that these are over 90% accurate, and I've done a couple of these, and I just thought they were so interesting to see what results I would get from doing these tests. So if you want, Benita, I can do a test, and we can, wait 10 minutes and come back to it and see what the results are. So I have the test here, and I also have a nasal swab, which I will not be using because these are super dangerous. And there's something yellow on there, which I'm not exactly sure what that is. And then they give you this kind of chemical juice stuff. I don't know if you can see it in there, which I'm not sure exactly what this is, which should be interesting to know. But this is what activates the test to either come as inconclusive, positive, or negative. And I can do a test now and start it, and we can, have a couple, maybe we can do in the comments, and they can guess what they think this test will come back as, if it will come back positive, negative, or inconclusive, which theoretically, right, I'm not swabbing, so it should be inconclusive. Not a valid test. So, but we can do one right now, and we can guess in the comments of what they think it's going to be. And we'll come back in 5-10 minutes and with the results.
Okay, well, if you're comfortable with doing that, Cody, I think our viewers would be interested in seeing how this is done and seeing the results. So Cody will get started there. He'll tell us what he's doing, and our viewers can post questions and comments in the comments, please. So what have you got there?
So this is the test, and I'm just going to read you what it is. So 2 lines, so the C and the T, that means it is positive. It's a positive COVID test. And then C, okay, T means it's invalid. So if it's on the T line, it's an invalid test. And if it's C, it's negative. So C negative, T inconclusive, and both of them positive. So I hope that's not too hard to understand. But yeah, so I'm just going to activate the test, and you just dip 3 drops of this chemical poison, I'm not exactly sure what it is, onto the test to activate it. And theoretically, I would shove this up my nose and wiggle it around, and then stick it in here and wiggle it around to get my test. But we're obviously not going to do that because it's super dangerous. But I am going to activate the test for you guys so you guys can kind of see exactly how these work. And this is a test that I can use to go to a restaurant, anywhere in Saskatchewan. So I just dip a couple drops there, and then I'm not gonna turn it yet because it's will drip everywhere. But the test is now active, and it's gonna start, and we're gonna start to see red go along the test, and then we will have our results. So in about 5-10 minutes, it doesn't take too long. They say 15 minutes, but it is way quicker, so we can kind of see there. The test is activated. See, we can see the red going. So the test has started, and yeah, we can just come back, and I'll just let it sit here, and we'll come back and see what the results are. So if you guys want to guess what they should be, and theoretically, right, this should be inconclusive because I asked them today about this, and they said every test that doesn't use this should be inconclusive because I didn't test anything, right? So it's super interesting that these are the tests that they're giving out, and we're gonna see if I have COVID or not.
Okay, we have viewers in the comments. They want to do things like test their turkey and their cranberries and their dog and things that come out of their dog.
I guess I should maybe test the wall or something, right? So I got all kinds. I can test all kinds of things and see what the results are.
And they're looking forward to seeing the results. One of our commenters says it looks like a pregnancy test.
And a lot of people like to say that. So there we go. It's still working hard. And yeah, we'll know very soon if I have COVID or not, or if I have to be on lockdown for the next 2 weeks.
So you were issued these tests by someone in Saskatchewan?
These are they were giving these tests away for the First Nations people. So I was lucky enough they gave me one today. I drove to the place and they were giving out 10 for Christmas, basically to anybody in Prince Albert here who wanted a COVID test. They gave you these kits and with all the information on it, and they said use these for your family, whatever. And I said I'll take some. So they gave me 10 and that's, I guess we'll see how accurate these are. And they were issuing, there was so many cars lined up. For blocks, there was cars, and that was at 9 a.m. this morning. So there's a lot of these tests being issued. And it's really important that we have accurate tests, especially if, this is such a deadly virus out there. We need to have accurate testing to know.
Okay. So we've had a prediction that you're pregnant with twins.
We can't give that out.
Someone else predicted it's going to test positive. That's their prediction.
Positive.
Okay. For any viewers just tuning in right now, what Cody has done is he's gotten a test, and there is can you just show the devices, though? You've got this thing that had fluid in it, and you have a swab.
So here's the swab.
So that's a swab that he was supposed to put in one of his orifices. And then that swab was supposed to be stirred into some fluid, which is in this little bottle type thing. And I don't know how long it is to sit in the fluid, but it's supposed to be swirled in there. Now, he didn't put the swab up his nose. All he did was take the fluid and pour it onto the test. And so now give us an update, Cody.
And I am negative. I do not have COVID.
You are negative. So it should have come out inconclusive because you didn't add any other substances to the fluid. And by just putting the fluid on the test strip, it came out negative.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's pretend right now that you wanted to make use of he's not pregnant. No, it came out negative. I didn't write that. Somebody else wrote that. Okay. Oh my goodness. So I'm gonna lose it.
Super fun. I absolutely love this. This is probably the best part of my whole entire day, honestly.
What making me laugh?
Blow your nose.
Okay. Someone else is suggesting blow your nose in a Kleenex. Use that, I guess. So back to the test. So you have a negative test. You're holding a negative test in your hand. You just took it. What are the possibilities now of that negative test? What could you do with that?
So I could go to a restaurant. I could fly on a plane. I could go to a bar. I can do everything in Saskatchewan here. And that's the dangers. And these are the same, I'm going to be honest, these are the same tests that they're giving to the hospital staff here in Saskatchewan, nurses. There's there's different brands and stuff, but I actually had a nurse reach out to me today, and she said these are the same ones. And these are how accurate these tests are for our nurses. So they theoretically could be sending a COVID positive nurse or doctor or whatever into the hospitals thinking they're negative when they're not, and they could be positive, and they could be infecting theoretically, according to the government, how dangerous it is. They theoretically could be infecting hundreds of or thousands of people, depending on which hospital you're in and however many people they're seeing. So to know that this is what's happening and the amount of money people are spending on these, it's insane. And I think we have a big issue here. And if people don't, see that this is an issue, I don't really know how else to explain that, because this is super important. We can't be, using these because these are so inaccurate. And this is my 4th test I did today. So it's not like this is a faulty one. I think they're all faulty, and it's just, they can't make a test off of something when they haven't even, isolated the virus or any of these variants that are so deadly. So I don't know how this is supposed to tell the difference between the common cold or the new variant, the African variant, I think it is now. I don't understand their logic behind this. And people are spending hundreds and thousands of dollars on these to work, to fly, to, go out. And it's upsetting that this is what we're getting.
Well, Cody, I really appreciate you sharing that with us. Some of our viewers are interested in testing. A lot of our viewers are opposed to testing. They consider the testing a infringement upon our rights. And I agree with those viewers, but I do appreciate that you have taken the time to explore this and share this with us, because it helps satisfy our sick curiosity. So thanks for sharing that. So let's get back to being educated to push back. For any new viewers who've tuned in, I am interviewing right now Cody Kuntz, and he's an activist from Saskatchewan who got kicked out of high school, got kicked out of university, and even has been in jail twice because of his activism. And so Cody has been so incredibly active in the movement, speaking at rallies, and also I think you've done some writing as well. I think you were published in Druthers at least once, right?
I am issued in the August edition, I believe, and December, and I just I wrote a book as well. So it is out. It's called Family Secrets, and you can get it on my website. And it's basically I tell some family secrets, some really, good entertainment for you guys. And I talk about my life. So growing up and what happened. So a lot of people, ask me why I went to jail, why I'm doing what I'm doing, how I became educated, what I went through. And it's all in here. There's a lot of things that people can relate to. And I just think it's important that, we just get educated. We talk to each other. We listen to each other's stories, because in the end, we all need each other and we need to help each other, because this is a big battle we're fighting, and we can't do it alone. We can't even do it with a couple hundred of us. We need to all unite together and stand our grounds, because if it's not, if we don't do it together, we'll never be successful, and our voices won't be heard. So we really gotta stand together and work with each other, and, no fighting, no drama, just, we're all in the same, we all want the same goals, and all we want is freedom, and that is it. And in the end, we will get that, but it's going to take some time, and, we're going to have to talk to people, and we're going to have to get, educated and just know our rights, and, know what you need to know. But, start wherever you can. That's what I like to say. Start, if you don't have a clue where to start, and you just, in your little world, and you don't know what to say or what to think, simply talk to somebody, and, they could talk to you, Benita, and you could just even, or me or anybody, and you can start them on the right path of where to start for research, or, when to go into a store. What do I need to say? What should I be researching? Or, just start somewhere. And once you start, you'll be on a roll, and it'll come naturally to you. It'll just be like a normal conversation. So when you're walking into Walmart or you're walking into these stores, you won't have an issue. You'll know what to say, and you'll just, you'll be confident, you'll be proud, and you'll be able to shop without being hassled. Nobody wants to go shopping and get their groceries and have people following them around, and taking pictures of them, like harassed. Like, nobody wants that. So, once you're educated and you're confident, you got this, and it's super easy. People, lots of the security guards are usually at least double my age, so they like to intimidate me, but I don't allow them. I just simply, I'll talk to them, and I'll educate them, and I'll say, I don't want a mask, no thank you, and I'll go on my way. It's really as simple as that. It's some in the mall there, we have seen it's a little different. We are having some issues, but when when you're by yourself or with a few friends, most of the time you won't be arrested. You won't be issued tickets. You shouldn't have issues.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. Now, you have some thoughts about getting together with some friends this weekend. You're coming to the rally at the Alberta Legislature grounds. And then afterwards, obviously, there's a march and stuff. And you're thinking at some point later that day, I don't know if you're thinking 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, whatever time, you're debating getting together with some freedom fighter, like-minded people and heading to one of the malls. And what will you do at that mall?
Well, I have to get a couple Christmas presents, and I'm sure lots of you guys have to too. So I just want to go, and if a few people want to come and we want to go shopping, and go for lunch or whatever, we all can. I don't think I'll say where we're gonna go right now. If you guys, you can private message me, or text me or see me in person at the ledge. We just gotta, we don't want the police after us or anything, but we're just gonna go shopping and just enjoy our day and live life and in freedom. And we're just gonna have a fun time, and just enjoy each other's company.
Well, that sounds just super. So when it comes to people pushing back, and especially young people, like when we're talking about youth, teenagers, and even kids, do you have any suggestions, especially for them, whether it's a teacher saying put on a mask, or a bus driver saying put on a mask? Any suggestions for the young people on how to respond to that?
The number one thing I like to tell people is always have your phone ready, because it is your number one thing. And at the end of the day, it's my word versus Benita's word. It's my word versus anybody's word. And you want to have some documentation. So if your bus driver or your teacher's harassing you or whatever, pull out your phone, start, voice memos and stick it in your pocket or whatever. Just have that. And, so if something comes up or they escalate the situation or they come after you or something, you have that proof, and whether or not you need it, that's okay. If you never need it, that's fine. But it's always good to just have that protection, just to protect yourself and just to stay calm. And if a teacher, is after you, and you're kind of scared and you don't really know what to say, I suggest, just phoning your parents or having somebody, who can help you out, because I know the school system is 100% indoctrination. That is why they do not like me there. But it's super easy. Just, make a phone call. If you can, shoot a text to your mom saying, or your dad saying, I need some help. They're harassing me, and, do whatever you can. If you can stand your ground, I really hope you do. And, just tell them, no, thank you. Please leave me alone. But if it comes to the circumstance where they really are pushing on you and trying to put a mask on you, just try and walk away and leave the room if you can. I hope it doesn't get that bad, but I know I've heard some situations where it has been. And if it does, just up and leave and send a text to your parent or somebody who's really close to you who can help you with the situation. Because I know it's super hard. It's super hard for kids, because teachers, they have authority and they like to use that. And same with, adults. And, you don't want to allow them to take over control of you. You just want to stay calm, and you're in control of your own self. You control what you do. You control what you eat. You control what you say. Don't let anybody else tell you what you need in your body or on your body.
Well, thank you very much, Cody. We really appreciate you being on Edmonton Freedom Central tonight. It's always a pleasure to interact with you. Thank you for your messages tonight, your encouragement, your inspiration. And in a few moments, we're going to be interviewing Selena Paley, and then we'll hear from Pat King. So thanks again, Cody, for being here. I appreciate this so much.
Thank you so much for having me, Benita. And this group is so awesome. So if you guys haven't already followed, come on, you guys, follow this amazing page. Thank you. Thank
you. Listen to Cody. Like and follow Edmonton Freedom Central. Yes. Thank you for that endorsement, Cody.
Not a problem.
I really appreciate that. So like and follow Edmonton Freedom Central, share out this video. We are just about to interview Selena Paley, and then we'll be interviewing Pat King on the topic of saying no and how to keep your composure even when there are people that are attempting to intimidate you. So join us in a few minutes with Selena Paley.
heart is, the center of our gravity. Home is not a privilege that is granted by Her Majesty. A home is our right, a place to raise our family. Home is where we go for tranquility and sanctity. Home is where we feel at peace and we can have some privacy, where I can voice my thoughts and nobody tries to silence me. Home is where commotion turns to settling dust. Home is where we raise our kids to be better than us. And home is more than just a house. Home is where there's unity. Home is where we gather. Home is our communities. Home is the connection that we share when we trust. Home is not about me. Home is about us. Home is the guiding light within that we feel drawn to. Home is the source of our creation we belong to. Let them try with their lies meant to pull us apart. We always find our way home cause we know it by heart.
All these long and lonely roads, they wind and bend, they find me friends, they lead me home. And I know no matter where I roam, I'm watching love from high above, I'm not alone.
Home is our cities, our states and our countries. Home is the earth below, the sky above me. Home is the truth we instinctively know, helping us to find home everywhere that we go. But there's many false prophets trying to lead us astray, who want to tell us what to do but not hear what we say. They ignore us while they play their game of righteous pretend, like we don't notice that their rules ain't applying to them. While our children have lost their future, made to cover up their faces, forced to get injections for attendance at their favorite places. Where does it end? When we take to the streets, the government won't call a hearing, they just call the police. And to the faceless stormtroopers, where is your humanity? Just following orders is no excuse for your insanity. It's time to cut the rod out at the source like a cavity. It's time to go home and realize that we're a family.
All these long and lonely roads, they wind and bend, they find me friends, they lead me home. And I know no matter where I roam, I'm watching love from high above, I'm not alone.
This country, is this the way you like to live? Constantly harassed to put a mask upon your wife and kids. Cops with riot packs who like to act as if no rights exist. Alive, but we're not really living. What kind of life is this? The world is full of risks, but we don't need protection, cause all of their solutions are much worse than the infection. If we want resolution, we need unity, not politics. Why should we trust somebody who's broken so many promises? But maybe this was meant to be and had to happen all along. The cycle's always spinning and it's darkest right before the dawn. It's funny, to the point of laughing out loud, cause what they said would never happen, well it's happening now. And so many are waking up. Welcome to the front lines. The ones who know behind the clouds will always be the sunshine. You and I see through the lies, no longer alone, and let the compass in our souls guide and carry us home.
All these long and lonely roads, they wind and bend, they find me friends, they lead me home. And I know no matter where I roam, I'm watching love from high above, I'm not alone. All these long, lonely roads lead me home. I'm watching love from high above, I'm not alone. All these long and lonely roads, they wind and bend, they find me friends, they lead me home. And I know no matter where I roam, I'm watching love from high above, I'm not alone. Take me home.
Welcome back, everyone. Welcome to Edmonton Freedom Central. I'm one of the contributors here, and my name is Benita Peterson. And soon we'll be interviewing Selena Paley, another contributor of Edmonton Freedom Central, and Pat King. Please take a moment to share out this video, and also please engage in the comments here. We appreciate your feedback and your questions. We'll do our best to address them, but we can't promise to get to them all. If you are looking to support Edmonton Freedom Central and these broadcasts, we very much appreciate your support in whatever way that is, sharing out videos, commenting, etc., letting other people know about us. And if you wish to financially support this broadcast, just send an e-transfer to Edmonton Freedom Central at shaw.ca. Am I right? Is it .ca or .com? I gotta always write this down. Anyways, it'll be in the bottom banner in a few moments here. I get forgetful sometimes. So our next guest is Selena Paley, and she is a mother and an activist and a contributor here at Edmonton Freedom Central. What I love about Selena is she works hard to get to the bottom of a matter. She is willing to do the research. She is willing to travel. She's willing to go the extra mile. Welcome, Selena. So happy to have you on the show tonight. Thanks for joining us.
Hello again, Benita. Thanks for having me. Always a pleasure.
I enjoy. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I love that song too. I sing along to it everywhere I go. It's just so infectious, and it's, just a real positive message. Always puts me in a good mood. So
yes, that's one of my favorites as well. I love the work of RC the Rapper, and I'm wondering who he's going to collaborate with next.
Hopefully,
who knows what might happen. It'll be good. I love music. I'm a music person. So you've been on a mission lately, Selena. I know the project you were working on last week, and you might be following up next week, is Her Name Was Jolene, hashtag Her Name Was Jolene. And this week you're working on some new projects. You've been doing some research. You've been looking into the subject of parental consent. Is that right?
Yes. When we talk about vaccinations in children, there's a lot of concern around, should we vaccinate the kids or not? And it gets more concerning when there are parents who disagree with that, especially when those parents are separated. And now we're into, who's legally in the right here when it comes to administering a vaccine on the child when there's a 50-50 parenting split. A co-parenting order is what we call it in the legal system. I've had some experience dealing with the family law in Alberta, the Family Law Act. I'm quite familiar with what it says and how we can use that to help our children, because when we look at the Family Law Act, basically it's the basis for that Family Law Act, when parents can't agree or they separate and they have to now share their children's time and decision making, is we're always garnered by and we always the foundation for the decisions that are made at the court level are always for the best interest and in the best interest of the child. So when we look at that, and we can talk a little bit more about that, what I'm hoping today when we talk to Pat as well is we can maybe come up with some solutions or some ideas for parents that feel helpless when they're in front of a judge and the judge is saying, no, I'm siding with the parent who wants to vaccinate the child. So I've looked through a lot of materials today with respect to, how can we empower our children to make that decision for themselves when they are, in that sort of mature minor category. I mean, if the governments are saying that kids can make the decision to vaccinate themselves without parental consent or knowledge, then in my opinion, I think it can go the other way, where they can also say no and refuse the vaccine on their own without having to drag their parents through the courts. So, I just think that we should start having more discussion around this, because we are starting to learn that it's really not safe. And it's also not very necessary to put in children for protection from COVID. We're seeing the facts rolling out now like a steam train. It's just, there's tons of facts now that back up the decision not to vaccinate at this time, especially when there's more concern over the complications that can arise as opposed to the safety of COVID. So that's where I stand on the matter.
Well, thank you very much for that, Selena. So you've been, I take it, hearing some stories from some of our supporters that are struggling when one parent thinks that the child should be injected and another parent thinks they shouldn't.
Yeah. So what's happening is, well, here's where my concern really lies, is that some parents aren't really guided by behavior that would back up their wanting to do this for their child for the best interest. Some parents do it just to spite the other parent, right? So one parent says, no, I don't want to vaccinate. And then you have this unfortunate situation where the other parent is like, well, I'm going to do it anyway, And so we just want to make sure that we are informed when it comes to knowing what our rights are under the laws and how we can protect our children from a parent with that angle in mind, where it's more sinister than it's helpful or well-intentioned. So, I have the Family Law Act here with me tonight. I have it printed off, and I have a section here that I would like to read to everybody, just to inform them. If you've made it to the courts and you do have a co-parenting agreement in place where the medical decisions are 50-50, there's a section in the Family Law Act that speaks to the child being able to make this decision on their own. So that one parent that is trying to maybe coerce the child into getting the vaccine, the other parent is well within their rights to provide factual information to their child, bring their child to talk to their friends, their doctors, and let that child come up with an informed decision on their own. And this is how we empower our kids also to make good decisions for themselves. Because if you ask me, my personal opinion, to have a judge decide that for your child is crazy to me. If the child is going to be the one injecting it, it really should come down to the child's decision on what they want to put in their body. And 9 times out of 10, children don't like vaccine. They don't like needles. They don't want to go get needles. Most of them, if not all of them, will say, no, I don't want this if I don't have to have it. And that puts the child in a power position. So when we look at the Family Law Act under Part 2, it's called Guardianship, Parenting, and Contact Orders and Access Enforcement. So when it comes to the enforcement of your parenting order under Section 18, 18(1), number 4 here, it says that in all proceedings, in determining what is in the best interest of the child, the court shall consider all the child's needs and circumstances, including the child's views and preferences to the extent that it is appropriate to ascertain them. So in most cases, the court will listen to the child and what the child wants. The government, our provinces are using this ridiculous mature minor rule of law under common law to basically say that if you're 12 or even 11 in some instances, you're mature enough to make this decision on your own. And I say to that, well, then they can say no too. They don't have to say yes, they can also say no.
Wow. Well, you're very sharp to pick up on this information, Selena. Is this hours and hours of research for you to find this material?
It is, and I don't mind. Again, I go through this material. It comes very easily to me. I can read through this for hours and still be awake. But I just think that it is available to everyone who wants to look it up. It's just a matter of angles, really. We're playing in a game of angles. Like, what angle are they taking, and what angle can we take to further protect our children from the angles that they're using? With the bribes and the ice cream and come and meet your favorite sports person, and while you're here, hey, get a vaccine. You won't even notice. It'll be so easy, and it's just such a fun environment. And it just screams, coercion to me. And I rarely doubt that these children are very well informed and making the right decision for themselves, especially the ones who are in the mature minor category, the 12 and up.
Well, thank you very much, Selena. We have Pat King in the green room now, so we're going to bring him out. But what I'd like to do with you is invite you to a panel discussion a little later in the program. Does that work for you?
That sounds great. I can't wait to hear what Pat says or has to say. Yeah.
Okay, we'll see you in a bit. Ladies and gentlemen, I consider this a great privilege to host a show and have as one of our guests, Pat King. Pat King is an activist who has traveled across Canada, spoken at freedom events, gotten really creative sometimes in the ways he pushes back, including organizing teepees on the Alberta legislature grounds. And Pat King is our guest tonight, and he is fired up about this subject here, where we're talking about saying no, pushing back, and empowering kids. Welcome, Pat King. Hey, Pat, I think you're muted. You might want
muted.
There we go. Welcome, Pat King. Good to have you on the show.
How's it going, Benita? Maybe make the small screen, hit the two little squares and where the screens are smaller, and people might get this picture. I put this picture up tonight because I figured the topic was about children. And, well, when I was a kid, I grew up with these kids. They're called the Muppets. And if anybody remembers this guy, that's Beaker. And they're actually doing a little experiment. And it's a science titration. And remember, as kids, we all grew up to the Muppets. We all watched what we did with our kids and stuff that was going on. But I thought this is kind of an oxymoron for tonight, because you see cartoons, you're seeing ads for kids in schools, you're seeing commercials and a lot of other propaganda for our children to push their differences with regards to wanting and understanding these vaccines. They've turned them into contests where you can win Xboxes, you can win toys, you can win hundreds of dollars worth of gift cards, and they're promoting them in schools. So the first and foremost, no, this isn't something for children. Parents are the ones who have to be the ones to be responsible for this. It's parents who are put into the role of parenting. Remember that thing, parents? You have to be a parent and parent your children. Your children should not be having to make these decisions. You have an education system that's against our parenting. Or we have an education system that's been 100% pushed to tell the children that our teachers are the safe spaces. And if they have anything to say, to tell them first before they ever tell their teachers. Now, you brought up a topic about kids getting jabbed. And Selena brought it up about kids and divorced families. I'm a product of that. And many people know this product that I've been through. Both my kids were jabbed without my consent. I also have 50-50 parental consent on any medical procedures. In those medical procedures, that means I have to be part and privy to that conversation. But you see, my kids were manipulated through the school system to think that this was a danger, not knowing the statistics that children can't die from this. So when I reached out to my family lawyer, and a lot of parents are going to find this out, when I reached out to the lawyer that handled my divorce case, and I said, look, she violated this, I can file a lawsuit and sue her for violating her parental agreement. What did my lawyer say? Pat, I know it's not fair, but I'm going to tell you right now, the judge is going to side on the other side of the parent. And they're going to say, you're unfit to be a parent. You're not looking out for the care and well-being of your child. And we're going to revoke your parental rights. That's bull poop, because I know I got to watch what I have to say. That's bull. And I don't give a crap what judge, what lawyer, who these people are. This is absolutely disgusting. Now, we've already got the statistics, and I pulled statistics up, but I shared a screen with you, Benita. I want to show you what they're doing in the hospitals. This is in the hospitals in Prince Edward Island. And what people need to see is this is the premier of Prince Edward Island in the picture. I know it's hard to see. And this is the chief medical officer of health for Prince Edward Island. And in this, they are dropping needles out of the sleigh onto all the little kids down below. These are needles being dropped onto the children. And these are on the doors of the hospitals inside these clinics. This is absolutely disgusting. And this is something that hits home with me because both my kids have been jabbed. I've seen an absolute difference in who my kids are. Now, it is not a kid's decision, and I don't give a shit who you are. Kids do not make these decisions. If you got to be 18 years old to get a tattoo or 16 with parental consent, how does a 12-year-old kid know the right and wrong of statistics-wise of getting a jab put in their body? They don't. It's the job of the parent to protect the child. And listen to this, parents. Imagine this. You have to be a parent. You have to be a parent and protect your kids. Because if you're not protecting your kids, then you're leaving them in the trust of an absolutely obliterated education system that is geared for cancel culture. It's geared for letting your kids know that they could be a boy. I'm going to leave that topic alone. But the disgusting rhetoric that they're being taught in schools with regards to sexual orientation and sexual beliefs, understand this. Your kids are in a cesspool of left-wing, liberal-minded teachers who are not there to teach. They're there to push an agenda now. And our kids are being sacrificed. And I mean it. It is like a sacrifice because we are putting them entrusted in the hands of an educator, and coming back, when they come back, the educator has not done their job. And any parent in their right mind should be absolutely appalled at what's going on with their children. And I've said this already in many of my podcasts. Any person out there, any parent out there, you stick this jab in your kid, there is a special place in hell for you. Because for one, kids can't die from this. Anybody remember chickenpox parties? Used to get your parents would make a phone call and you'd be like, hey, does Johnny or Jenny, do they have chickenpox? Yeah, they do. Oh, well, I'm sending my kid over there. Okay, yeah, we're going to have a chickenpox party, and we built immunity to it. We got the chickenpox, and now we don't get chickenpox anymore. We won't even get shingles because we never got the chickenpox vaccine. The chickenpox vaccine, the direct adverse health effect from the chickenpox vaccine for any parent who didn't do chickenpox parties and just jab their kids, your children are going to get shingles when they get older. And, you know, I've never had shingles, but I heard it's absolutely just like horrible. It's the worst thing in the world.
I'm appreciating this, Pat. I can see how fired up you are about this issue. Share out this video, folks. Please share it out so we can get more people hearing Pat's message. We're going to get into a panel discussion in just a few moments here and include some of our other guests from this evening. Pat, I'm curious to know, when it comes to empowering youth, with regards to saying no, because youth are under a lot of pressure for this, and because they want to fit in, they want opportunities to do things. And I'm getting the sense that people are getting a bit worn down. They're feeling worn down. So when you think about mustering up, you know, in a sense, your own strength to stay with the fight and moving forward, there's other people that might be having a hard time. What's a message you have for them?
Get outside and play more. Stop listening to the propaganda from your friends. There's something lacking in our children these days, and they'd rather sit behind a screen and play video games than get outside and play in the dirt or go tobogganing or go sledding, you know. These children shouldn't have to even be worried about this if you have good parenting in the home. Parenting in the home is where it begins. And I've always stressed that, because I don't care who you are. Kids shouldn't even have to be thinking about this. But on that note, one of the most profound videos that I ever showed on any of my podcasts or anything, it's actually got 4.5 million views of it. And it's the parents standing behind the children and actually taking their kids to school and telling the kids to take the masks off, because it isn't policy, it isn't mandate. Ladies and gentlemen, we need to empower our children to understand what laws are. Okay? A mandate, number one, is not a law. So our children do not have to follow this law. Besides the fact, children 12 and under cannot be charged under these laws. But that's not a child's job to understand that. It's a parent's job. Everything comes back to the parents. Now, for children to want to feel that they have a voice and they can stand up for themselves, think of it this way. For children, when somebody's coming down on you and telling you, put a mask on, treat them like a bully. They're a bully. Stop bullying me. I don't like to be bullied. Please stop bullying me. And watch what happens in the education system. As soon as you cry that term bully and you're feeling like you're bullied, you might have a chance of turning this perspective from the teachers onto, oh, wait, maybe we are bullying our children. Maybe these kids are feeling a little bit attacked and infringed upon. Now, I told my son to speak up early on in this pandemic. They were given 10-minute leeway to take their masks off. When I told that to my son, his teacher actually told him, no, I'm the teacher. I make the rules and you listen to me. And my son came home upset, crying that the teacher wasn't even following the rules. So I made a comment on one of my live feeds and I stated that, hey, you know what? I'm going to go into the school tomorrow. I'm going to have a conversation. And hypothetically speaking, I don't care who you are. Anybody who picks on my child, you're going to get a knuckle sandwich. All of a sudden, I had RCMP at my door and they banned me from my kids' schools from speaking out. Now, it was a little heated. But at the same time, I was trying to empower my child to stand up to the teachers for bullying them. So kids need to understand you've been taught anti-bullying techniques. Use them against your teachers. When you've been taught how to report mistreatment, start reporting it as mistreatment. You have the power, children. You have the kids have the power to actually be able to change this 100%. And if they were to just say no and say that's enough, then you know what? Maybe we are going to do something with our kids and they'll see this. But unfortunately, the indoctrination of our education system, people are saying, you know, oh, Pat, now you're blaming it on the teachers. Absolutely, I'm blaming it on the teachers. It's the teacher's job to teach. Not since when did a teacher turn into a doctor? Since when did a teacher turn into an immunologist or a virologist? Excuse me. I've heard of what teachers are saying in schools and how they're singling out students and how they're making students pick on other students because they're not jabbed yet. And I've actually spoke with this. And when I was in Peterborough a few weeks ago, a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, I had a girl stand up with her parents. Her name was Brooklyn. Hi, Brooklyn, if you're watching. And Brooklyn was sent a letter from the Peterborough Health Department over and above her parents. Her parents didn't get it. And she's only, I think, 11 years old, telling her how to be COVID safe. Now, that's ridiculous. And that was one thing that Brooklyn spoke about was how come she's getting these letters? Where have we gone so wrong that we're so scared to parent anymore? And it falls on the responsibility of the parent. Why are you so scared shitless to tell your kids no? Or to tell your kids stand up for yourself? Where did it go, Benita? It's gone. Poof, disappeared.
You've raised a great point, Pat. I was chatting with someone else about this earlier today about how parents in a number of ways have surrendered their rights to the schools, to the daycares, etc. And not what's worse than surrendering is they've actually asked for it. They've asked for more government intervention. Oh, please give me this. Please give me that. Please give me free daycare or subsidized daycare rather than taking responsibility. Another one of our presenters presented the other day and said freedom is like a coin and there's two sides of it. On one side is freedom, but on the other side is responsibility. And if we want freedom, we actually have to take responsibility. We can't just surrender our kids to the system and say, oh, the system will educate them and look after them. So we're in agreement on that. Now, Pat, I'd like to introduce you to some of our other guests that we have here tonight, and we're going to have a panel discussion. We have Selena Paley. She is an Edmonton Freedom Central contributor. We also... Oh, do you know her? Do you know Selena?
Never met her before in my life. I just poked her in the ear. I was poking her in the ear.
Well, I think you might also know this next guest. We also have Cody Kuntz, an activist who's been to many, many freedom events. I think you two might know each other as well. Yes. And we have Veronica. Pat, you might not yet be familiar with Veronica, but she's a mom that was in a mall in Grand Prairie on December 4. And
yes, I do know Veronica very well.
Oh, you've seen her video.
I put her video on my page and it went viral.
Oh, that's your video, Veronica. Well,
that would be me, yeah.
And I might have had a hand in some of the groups going in there after singing "Oh Canada."
Really, Pat? Are you serious?
That's serious. And I'm actually going up to GP.
Oh, good.
You are not. That's awesome.
Oh, yeah.
When are you headed up to GP? Or you don't want to tell us?
We're not done with this yet. Veronica, we're not done with that yet. That was absolutely disgusting of what they did to you. I don't care who you are. There's one part in your video that got me the most. And it was the part where you turned the camera and there was a gentleman sipping. He was a bigger gentleman, huskier gentleman, farm boy. And he's sipping on his drink and he's like, I would have jumped right through and knocked that guy out. That guy should have jumped to your help. Right. And
yeah,
that's me.
Well, why don't we go ahead? Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, you keep me posted, Pat, because I will. I'll meet you there.
Oh yeah, everybody will know.
So the topic tonight is saying no and empowering people to stand up. And what may be needed is something like what Pat just described. Veronica was having an issue in a mall. There was someone nearby, and that person possibly could have stood up to help Veronica, but didn't, possibly because he didn't know Veronica. There's a number of reasons there. But I'm sensing that in the future, we are going to have to start standing up for complete strangers in these situations. So take today, for example. I was driving down the road and I saw that a police officer had a car pulled over. Well, my trust, unfortunately, for police is getting less and less and less because, of course, they've personally given me tickets that violate my rights and freedoms. And so I start to wonder now, every time they have someone detained, are they now violating someone else's rights and freedoms? And I'll admit that there was a temptation for me, but I was by myself, to pull my car over and just ask the driver of the vehicle pulled over, are you being lawfully detained? And so let's talk for a moment about pushing back and possibly engaging strangers to help us. Or if you're a stranger in a situation and you see someone being wronged, what would you do to stand up? So I'm going to pose this question actually to Cody first. So imagine a situation where someone is having their rights or freedoms violated in some way, and you were a witness to that. What would you do?
I think the first thing I would do is I would grab out my phone to have evidence of exactly what was going on, whether that's just quickly grabbing, starting a live stream, a video, a voicemail, whatever you can to start that, have it in your pocket to have that evidence, because it is your word versus the police officers. And we have seen them twist words, twist stories all the time. And we just want to protect each other, and we got to help each other. And if we see that happening, go in and do whatever you can, talk to that person, kind of give them just do whatever you can to make sure that they are being treated fairly and that they are being legally detained.
Okay, we're going to go to Veronica next. If you saw someone in a situation, what would you do?
I would definitely stand by their side, try to get clarity of the situation, and start questioning what laws or legislation that is being broken, and demand a copy of it or something like that. Oftentimes when you speak in those terms, it makes the other person, like in my situation with the security guard, it makes them step back a bit and question, okay, well, what am I doing, right?
Thank you. Thank you for that. We'll go to Selena next. Selena, do you agree that we have to start standing up for one another, even complete strangers, maybe even people we don't even like, and start standing up when we witness a violation of rights and freedoms? And if so, what's something you feel you could do in moments like that?
Right. Well, I just wanted to say that I just noticed that Fred invited us all over to his house for Christmas. So we're all going to everybody. Okay. No, I have to admit that one of Cody's videos resonated with me a few months ago. He was at a Canadian Tire and he was standing up for his rights, and he didn't have anybody with him, unfortunately. And the first thing that came to my mind was, if I was there, we would have been shopping, we would have been in that place, got what we needed, and we would have left free. Because I've been saying for months now, strength in numbers, and stand up for each other, and be prepared, like Veronica says. Vlad has that friend of his, I can't remember her name, the brunette, and she always carries the laws with her. so she can show the security guards like what the laws are. So, you know, I'm always prepared for an information session wherever I go. And I have that look on my face, that resting bitch face. I know I've been told, but it's like, try and get a mask on my face and you'll be schooled by the time I get out of here. And I'll have my stuff purchased and I'll be heading to the car by the time, you know, it actually resonates with you. But I just think, you know, as long as you're delivering the information in a way that's still respectful, they'll hear it and you can just get on with your day. Because I don't have time for this bullshit anymore, to be quite honest.
Right on. Thank you, Selena. Pat, what have you got to add to that?
Number one. Show me where there's a law that states that I have to wear a mask in here. Okay, you're going to tell me that I have to wear a mask in a store? Do you offer a service? You're offering a service. I cannot be charged with trespassing. Your service that you're providing, here's my money. I'm purchasing a service. We are in contract. Therefore, I do not have to follow. I only have to follow your mandate when we're in contract. If I have yet to purchase something, I do not have to follow your mandate because it is not a law. Understand that services provided by malls, and as much as they want to say this is a private business, no, it is not a private business. This is a service provided to the public that you are offering, and I am here to utilize that service. I suggest go onto Hugs Over Masks, look at Vlad's paperwork that he has on that. I think it's hugsovermask.ca. Like Selena said, she's bang on. Grab that paperwork, and if you have to, carry it with you. Now, for the protection of somebody who is in a situation, and I see somebody on here in your little comment trolls like to say Pat's answer to anything is violence. There is nothing to do with violence. I've never been violent once. You can be assertive, and it'll still be enough to stop what's happening. Number one, you see a woman and her children that are being harassed, and trust me, I screenshotted that little skinny puke and his hand up like Adolf Hitler. I screenshotted that little puke. And I tell you right now, if that kid would have told that to you and I had been standing there, I would have went and stood right in front of him so that you were protected. Because remember, men, and if there are any men out there, your job is to protect the women of the tribe. Your job is to stand up for women and children. You need to protect these people. They are our life bringers. They are our mothers, our nurturers, our healers. These women need to feel protected. You show the women that you've protected them. You've just empowered the biggest lioness in anybody. So men, grow a pair of balls and stand up for these women. I don't care who you are. And if you see another man that's being attacked or accosted by a security guard, go stand up with him and say, hey, brother, you need a hand? And just stand with them.
I love it, Pat. Thank you. Thank you for that message. We got us down together. I have a suggestion now to help people feel prepared. And here's one of my suggestions. I know that we're being inundated with a lot of information, and I know that that information can feel overwhelming at times. And so one of my suggestions to our viewers is you write out what you might say in a certain circumstance, whether it's the mask, whether it's the vax pass you're facing, whatever. You write it out. And then you take what you've written, whether it's a paragraph or two, and you practice reading it out loud in front of a mirror or in a meeting like this, and you practice it a few times. Even practicing it once will make a difference. It will help you own the words. They start to become your words, and you'll be that much more effective when you practice them in public. So as you can see, these activists we've had here have had plenty of experience being out in public, and maybe there's some of our viewers that are looking to gain that experience. Do you guys basically agree that in a sense, we're training for war? Right now, we are training for war. And these confrontations we have, whether it's about mass or whatever it's about, is actually training us for what's to come. So do you agree we're training for war? We're going to go with Cody first to comment on that.
I just like to put out a quick disclaimer to CSIS, RCMP, and all the officers watching. This is a hypothetical question topic that we are discussing.
It's a war of words. That's what I mean. It's just a war of words. So, Cody, go ahead.
No, I absolutely think so. I think it, if we don't stand together now and we don't start building our groups and if we don't stand together, I don't think we'll ever be successful. I don't think we'll ever win. So in the sense, it almost is like a war against us versus the higher ups who think they're entitled and can control us and run our lives, our kids' lives, hurt our kids, harm our kids. It is a war to me, a war of words, which I like you say that, Benita. But I really think we're getting prepared because we don't know what's going to happen next.
Thank you, Cody. And so if a person is having trouble standing up just with regards to mask and they're essentially bowing down and saying, I will obey, I'll wear the mask, I'll cut off my own right to breathe, I bow. How on earth are they going to muster up the strength to stand up when even more intimidating forces are in your face? So we need to stand up now if we haven't already. All viewers need to stand up. And so we are working towards potentially greater intimidation. Maybe they're closing borders. Maybe they're stopping cars and saying, hey, you're only allowed to grocery shop once a week. What are you doing grocery shopping today? It may be heading that direction. And so as we're mustering up this strength, do you feel it's important that we practice in some way pushing back? And just like going to the gym, you work out, you get stronger by doing rather than just watching other people doing. Pat, can you comment on that?
Oh, boy, I don't know. No, I'll go to the next one. I'm going to think of something really good to say.
Okay, that's fine. We'll go to Selena.
Oh, we could be here all night then, Pat. No, I'm just kidding. No, Benita, honestly, I think it just comes down. Okay, well, here's what I've been saying, and it's been in my experience under our current government, our current leadership. It feels like we're in an elementary school play yard. Like it's just bullying at the elementary school level from top down. That's what it feels like. And we just have to empower our kids at this point and teach them how to stand up to bullies, even when they're dealing with adults in some situations. The techniques and the strategies and the communication is always going to be the same. Just simply no, thank you. I reserve the right to decline that. As my son says, and I've empowered him to say no to the masks at school. You can't force me to wear that mask. I want to call my mom. So we had to do that on 3 occasions because they wouldn't let him call me. So I challenged them on it. As Pat said, I stepped up to the table as his parent. And, I don't mind confrontation, especially when my child's rights are being abused and he's being bullied. And he's right. You just call them on it and they back down. That's what bullies do. They back down when you bring attention to it.
She's right. And anybody who knows anybody who's ever been through the bullying process, and I'm one of them. I've been bullied a lot when I was a kid. The second you stand up to them, they cower. And sometimes, it comes to fisticuffs, and watch how fast they cower. But at the same time, when it comes to the school system, this is the absolute epitome of disgusting, is watching teachers telling kids to not play with that other kid because they're not vaccinated. That's the most disgusting part. And I've seen it. My child has been a product of it. That is why he got the jab. That is why he let his mom go ahead and do that. He felt that he wasn't one of the other kids in class. And I know this for a fact because he sat crying to me, telling me this one day. And I said, don't worry about it. I'll pull you out of school right now. Then went off to his mom's for a week, and then that was it. I just found out. And they didn't want to tell me, and he didn't want to tell me. But you know what? That's the parenting level these days in I don't know, in today's society is not the parenting level that we grew up in. And I'm actually going to say I'm the reason why my kids are parented the way they are, because I was stuck in the bush for 20 years figuring that my spouse had this all controlled, had it all figured out. But I was never the parent on scene. I was never there. But when I was there, I was definitely there. When my kids got bullied at school, I told them, stick up for yourself, stand up for yourself. On a third time, swing back. Then all of a sudden he gets suspended, and I'm like, why? And then they find out that they were holding it internally. They wanted to keep him internal and take care of the issue internally. Well, this was the third time, and now you're suspending my child from him standing up? I don't think so. As soon as I did, the suspension was revoked and my son was still allowed to go to school. So parents, you need to parent. I know everybody says, well, I'm a good parent. How dare you attack my parenting skills? That's not what we're attacking. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is you need to be more involved in your children's education. You need to be more involved. Taking your kids to the store and not putting a mask on them. Showing them that you can do it. I do it all the time. My son may be jabbed. He may wear his mask when he's out with his mom. But when he's out with me, no, take your mask off. We don't need to wear a mask in public. And I'll show you why. And we'll walk into the stores and no issues. I'm sorry. I know the reason why I don't get harassed about my mask. And it is because I'm a bigger guy. But early on in this, I saw they were picking on women when you went into stores. They were very aggressive on the females because they know the females will try to do anything to avoid confrontation. So they did a really good number on the harassment on the women. So when children, and especially in Alberta, where most husbands work outside of the home or are gone for short periods, maybe even longer periods, when the women get harassed, the children see that. So I can see why kids all of a sudden, whoa, they got my mommy to put on a mask. And that's what happened. And I've seen it more and more. I really feel for the parents out there. I really do. But it's time you grow a pair. You need to. You have to.
Thank you, Pat. I am noticing more and more men standing up. So I think they are, as you put it, growing a pair now. We're going to go to Veronica now to comment on this subject. Go ahead, Veronica.
I just reading a comment there that popped up. My 5-year-old says we're exempt and nobody bullies him. That's awesome. I try to empower my kids. I guess my 2 younger ones are too young to see. They're just watching at this point, but to really sit there and understand, they've never had a mask on their face and they never will. My oldest is a teenager and she simply says she's over the last 8 months, she's gotten the confidence to say, no, I'm not doing that. One thing I will say, the bullies that seem to come out, I'd mentioned to Benita earlier in the show that I haven't seen violence among freedom fighters. I've seen love and compassion and support. And even since my video went viral, the trolls that are coming out and saying things, and I say trolls, but that's where the violence is coming from. So, and I get it, because one comment is like a cancer. It'll spread very, very quickly if you let it. So just try to stay away from all that negative stuff. I like Pat's comment earlier too about watching or staying away from the media and the programming. I can understand why people don't stand up. I don't agree with it, but I can understand it's very, very stressful. And Pat, you mentioned that guy in my video, maybe, and I sitting there thinking maybe he just was terrified. Maybe he's never dealt with that confrontation. You mentioned women are avoiding the confrontation, or we tend to avoid confrontation, I think, except for me. I don't know.
Nobody wants that. Nobody wants to cause confrontation.
But with that, no, nobody wants that. It's very, very stressful. I will say, I mean, in that video, there's times I was going to cry and I was like, I'm not letting him win. I am not going to cry. So I can understand. I really understand why it's scary for people to stand up, but look at the people that stood up the next day, the next week, and days after. It's power numbers, and it just takes one person to light that fire, and then it goes right. So we just have to remember that.
It's infectious.
100%.
I'm all fired up, and I've been all fired up. I loved being in Grand Prairie, by the way, back in April for a rally. I love Grand Prairie and Peace River and all those places. Just sometimes got to get people fired up, and then you find out how fired up they are later. This is awesome. Okay, here's our next question, and it kind of has to do with firing up a situation or potentially escalating a situation. So the question is twofold. In what circumstance do you realize you need to de-escalate the situation, calm things down? and how would you go about de-escalating it? And in what circumstances would you actually escalate a situation and cause a greater intensity? In what circumstances, if any at all? Because most of the time I'm usually trying to calm people down. Sometimes I want to get them revved up, but under what circumstances would you do that? So de-escalating a situation or escalating a situation. Cody, go.
I think for de-escalating a situation, if you are just at a store, with a security guard or worker, and they're really pushing things onto you, the best thing is just, if they're not understanding, they're not listening, they're just harassing you, they're following you around, the best thing is to just stay calm. And if, you're trying to get riled up and trying to explain to them, but they're not listening, just stay calm and walk away. Just don't, escalate the situation, because then you'll have the police called and then they'll come crazy. But I think the best time to escalate a situation is if the police are illegally arresting you and there's people around where you can cause a scene so people know that you're in danger and you need help. I think that's probably the only time where I personally would think that it's good to escalate the situation, when you're in serious danger and these people are really after you and you've done everything you can to help. I think that's probably the best way for that.
Thank you for your thoughts on that, Cody. We'll go to Selena next. When is it time to de-escalate a situation? How would you do that? When might it be time to escalate a situation?
Well, I mean, de-escalate would be, like Cody mentioned, just to be calm, and in some cases remove yourself even from the situation. Take your phone out, record. And what I've done when I had that altercation at BC Liquor Store was I called the store manager the next day and I filed a complaint. So the particular security guard was literally herding me around the store so that I wouldn't buy alcohol. Like, he was less than 2 feet away and he was herding me around the store. So I was recording it, and of course I called the next day. So that to me is an escalation of sorts, but also a de-escalation. And then, in terms of escalation, how I interpret that is when I'm being harassed by an employee and they're trying to tell me it's a law, and as Pat said, it's not a law. So we have this exchange that goes back and forth where they're saying it's a law. I say, it's not a law. It's a law. No, it's not a law. And then I say, can I talk to your manager, please? Because in most instances, the manager will come around and say, it's not a law. And then the employee's like, well, why the hell am I wearing a mask? So that has a positive outcome usually when I escalate to a manager level, and then they leave me alone after that. So those are my examples, and I just want to mention that I would like to go to Grand Prairie and hang out with Veronica for the week. I think that would be fun.
Road trip.
Come on, G-Pay in the house. Whoop, whoop.
Well, that sounds like fun. Veronica, you're very popular these days.
Sounds like a shopping trip.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, but not this Saturday. This Saturday,
No.
Cody said shopping is in Edmonton. He just hasn't said exactly where yet, but anybody who wants to shop with Cody in Edmonton, you can do that after the rally at the Alberta Legislature. So Cody will be there making announcements. So the question right now is, when do you know it's time to de-escalate a situation, and how do you do that? And when might it be time to escalate the situation in some way? So we're going to go to Veronica now to answer this question.
I seen Pat's hand come up, but you're going to be way longer winded. So one thing I want to mention to people, and this is kind of nerve wracking in my beginning, and it started with the mask. When you go into a store, oftentimes a store will say, you can't come into this store. Because if you guys notice that some stores will be sectioned off so that they can control the traffic that comes and goes. So if you get into the store and they say, you have to wear a mask when you have to leave, no, I don't. And you continue shopping in that store. You continue shopping because you are able to do so. And when they tell you that you can't because it's breaking the laws and they have a rule and this is a private property, etc., no, it's open to the public. I actually had heard from a lawyer that Costco, even where you pay for a membership, is even still not considered private, because anybody from the public can go and buy that membership and have access to that property. So any business that is offering that. So that's empowering in itself too, is just saying, no, I'm not going to leave the store. I'm going to continue my business. I'm going to continue shopping and doing what I need to do. And then I'll leave. The de-escalation, I can't stress the phone enough. We live in a world where technology is so huge and everything on video and proof of this, proof of that. So your phone is your best friend. Like I said, if you don't get a chance to hit the record button, that's fine. They don't know that. And most people will back off instantly. And then just remember to stay calm and collect. And then as for escalating, if I had to start escalating, like in the video, I started getting a bit loud when I felt threatened that the guy was going to put his hands on me. But I did ask him for the laws. I asked him for legislation. What section number? He directed me to a website, which, I mean, if you don't know what you're looking for, you may not find it. So I asked him specifically, what section is that he's using to kick me out of the mall and, you know, segregate me? So education is awesome. I should work on that myself, actually having papers with me. But there was a video recently where the lady sat down at Tim Hortons. I think they were having Tim Hortons in the mall somewhere. And she had all these laws, and even the police officer was questioning, you know, and looking through it for himself. And I thought that was awesome.
Right on. Thank you for that, Veronica. Thank you so much. So we're going to go to Pat now. De-escalating a situation, escalating. What are your views, Pat? When and how?
So when you want to de-escalate this, I'll tell you right now, when you see exactly like Veronica had to experience, when I see a single mother with children and 5 intimidating, wannabe rent-a-cop losers who think they're higher than God because they are friggin' mall cop Paul Blart riding around on a Segway, I'm going to jump right in there. And I'm going to tell you, look, you leave this woman alone or you're going to have issues with me. And if you're not going to leave her alone, I'm going to make that person feel protected. When it comes to a male in that situation, I'm going to ask that male, you all right, bud? You want me to step in here? You want some hands? Like you've got me if you need me. But the number one thing is these guys are trained in intimidation. These guys, that's all they have. They don't have anything else but intimidation. That's why you see that tall, lanky, skinny little punk thinking he's the biggest guy in the room. And that little scrawny sack of bag of bones, I'll tell you, he was shitting his pants. And he was. You can see it. But you see, they're trained in intimidation. Same with police officers. Police officers are trained in intimidation. That's how they control the scene. Steal that power away from them, intimidate them back, watch what happens. Straight up. And I'm telling you, any man out there, you see a woman being intimidated by 5 other men and 1 lonely female that's standing in the back, get the hell in there, stand up, and hold your line. Hold fast, man.
Hold fast, hold the line. Right on, right on. Thank you, Pat. I remember that day I was coming out of West Edmonton Mall December 4th, and it was just me and 1 female friend. And I saw a couple of guys, and I asked them to walk with us, but maybe they didn't understand my question. But I had 7 security guards come out after me. 7 men for just me and this lady. And these 2 guys were kind of nearby. And I'm like, can you walk with us? You know, partly for protection, witness, just power in numbers. And maybe they misunderstood my question, so they didn't come with us. So it was just me and her. We basically took off. But the mall caught up with me later and issued me paperwork. Anyways, the next question now has to do with coming events and coming projects. Whatever it is you're working on, whatever significant events you think you'd like to share, possibly so people can watch online or attend in person or support in some way. So, for example, right here at Edmonton Freedom Central tomorrow, we have a broadcast at 4 p.m. Our guest on that broadcast is Donald Lee, and we're going to be analyzing the new restrictions here in Alberta for Christmas. So I have a hunch you are going to enjoy that. We're going to have a little bit of fun with it. And that's 4 p.m. right here at Edmonton Freedom Central. Now, tomorrow is the day you get 2 shows for the price of 1. We also have a broadcast at 7 p.m. And in that broadcast, I will personally be interviewing Pastor Archer Pulowski. We'll be talking about the Solidarity Project in Poland and how the Solidarity Solidarity Project is starting up here in Canada. So that's happening tomorrow at 7 p.m. here at Edmonton Freedom Central. I'm also involved in the Alberta for Liberty event happening in Edmonton this Saturday, music at 11:30 at the Alberta Legislature grounds. That's happening there. And then the speeches and more music from 12 noon to 1 p.m. And at 1:15 p.m., we march in the streets. Join us this Saturday. And then there's more Edmonton Freedom Central programs next week. So we hope you'll join us. So now we'll hear from Cody. What's coming up for you, Cody?
So I don't have a whole lot of crazy projects coming up, but all my projects can be found on my Facebook page, Cody Kuntz, or on my website, codykuntz.com. I do have my book that has my whole story and shows how to get active and how to get out there and fight, and what I've been through in my journey about being arrested, being criminally charged. That's all out there, so you can get my book at codykuntz.com, and it explains it all. And I'm just, here to help people, and anybody who needs any help, with going into a store or vaccination exemptions, anything, reach out to me, and I will get that sent to you as soon as possible.
Well, thank you very much, Cody. I appreciate that. And you're going to be at the Alberta Legislature in Edmonton this Saturday.
Absolutely. I'm excited. It's going to be a great event, and hopefully the weather is not too bad. And and I hope we can go shopping too. I hope Selena joins me too, and we can go get some Christmas shopping and have a great weekend. Live life.
And you're giving a speech Saturday too, right?
I am. I'm excited.
Okay, I'll introduce you Saturday. I'll think of something nice to say.
It'll be fun. I'm excited. I hope everybody comes out.
Okay, so Veronica, what coming events, what can you tell us about happening in your area, in Grand Prairie, whatever? What can you tell us about, whether it's events or projects or endeavors, what's happening?
I don't know. I kind of play it day by day because I've got little ones and whatnot. And with Christmas coming, I'm just trying to stay close to home. But if there's an event coming up, I try to go. One thing up in our area, up in the north here, bornfreegp.com is a group of freedom fighters that just came together and said enough. And they made a web page. They try to keep it updated with all kinds of information from, everything from simple laws to serving your employers notices and things like that, with upcoming jobs that people are facing, job loss and whatnot. So, there's lots of good information. I think Action for Canada has been pretty active up in that area as well. Another good site to check out is, and this is more in the politics aspect of it, if you're kind of sick of Jason Kenney like most of us, the Alberta Unity Project is something to check out. They have a Facebook page, and the things that they're doing, they're traveling around, having some conversations with people about change, about real change, and that's kind of something I'm really, really getting into now. But other than that, I'm planning a shopping trip with Pat and Selena, and Cody, of course, is welcome. Looking forward to it.
Thank you very much, Veronica. I appreciate that. That's good to know what's going on. I've worked with the group bornfreegp.com, and I've partnered with them in a sense on a few events, and I found them to be very, very good. You've attended some of their events, haven't you?
Absolutely. The passion is huge, and unfortunately a lot of people have to work and whatnot, but the passion's there, the support is there. It's amazing. So I just want to address one of the comments. I'm trying to keep up with some of the comments too. Somebody said, we need more freedom fighters on here. I wish we need more people to stand up. You be that person, and then you watch how quickly somebody else stands beside you. So I know, like we talked about that nervousness and whatnot and the anxiety of it. Man, that's what needs to happen right now. Let's do it. Let's work together and let's just do it.
I love it. I think this is a great time for me to mention a concept that's out now. It's called the Team of 12. And the Team of 12 is this idea where you get in touch with 11 other freedom fighters from your area. We must all know at least 11 freedom fighters by now. And then you organize projects together. A team of 12 is just perfect, because if a group gets too big, it's hard to guide and redirect the group. So a team of 12 can make a lot of things happen, especially if you end up partnering eventually with another team of 12. So I've started to put assignments on my Facebook page, Benita Peterson. And at first it talks about how to organize this team of 12. You get your group organized, and then you let me know you have a team. And you don't even have to give me all the names. I don't want the names. You can keep them to yourself. I don't even want the leader's name. It doesn't matter. But then I'll send out assignments. And so assignment 1 has already been released, and it's maskless at the mall. And it gives a whole bunch of suggestions on how to carry out that assignment. You can, of course, do it as suggested or adapt it and make it your own. But I'll give you a hint about assignments to come. And one of them has to do with banners on overpasses. Can you guess where I got that idea? And another one has to do with street corner protests. And it's just standing on the street corner with signs, waving at cars and interacting with cars, obeying all the rules, like don't step into traffic, and, you know, don't cross the road unless you're supposed to. Like, you obey all that, but you just stand with signs and you interact with cars. And 12 people at one street corner could get noticed by 1,000 cars or more in a matter of a few hours. So street corner protests are going to be one of the assignments. Also, for the teams of 12, there's assignments for people who don't want to be in the public eye, and they want to help out from behind the scenes in other ways. So there's going to be assignments for those teams as well. Again, I don't want to know all your names. If you want to stay anonymous, you don't want to be famous, that's fine. But we appreciate if you at least submit in some way what you're up to. And even if we don't give your names, we can at least say, hey, there was a team that did this and a team that did that, and we'll give you some extra support that way. So speaking of projects and events and things, what's coming up for you next, Selena?
Right. So I guess it looks like I'm going to be going up to Grand Prairie and meeting some new friends. Oh, man, those mall cops, they don't know what's coming. At Nairo. No, it should be fun. And that's, you know, freedom is fun. And that's what we're here to promote mostly. And, you know, just taking our power back. So we're definitely, you know, I would love to come there, do a shopping trip, do a live on Edmonton Freedom Central, and just, you know, show everybody that, you know, it can be fun. Have to be confrontational. It can be fun. And the other thing that is going on, I know, Veronica, you mentioned Action for Canada. Tanya Gaw is doing wonderful things there. They're making lots of progress throughout BC with the schools. So there's, it's ramping up here in Alberta. I'll just put it that way. We're ramping up to do the same, working with some mama bears, lionesses, and we're going to be serving those NOLs like Christmas cookies. We'll be giving them out like Christmas cookies this year at the schools, because we do have a problem at the schools. The schools are locked. They're all masked up. Everything's virtual. Parents can't even go in the schools anymore. I mean, it's a problem we need to address here in Alberta, and we're doing that now and into the new year. So I'm looking forward to getting some results there.
Right on. It was a privilege interviewing Tanya Gaw, and if anybody hasn't yet seen that interview, it's on the Edmonton Freedom Central page, and it's from Thursday, December 9th. You can learn all about Action for Canada and their projects and their website. Tanya Gaw interview December 9th right here. Okay, Pat, what's coming up for you? We all want to know, are you the kind of person you have to book events now at undisclosed locations, or are you still doing public events? What's up for you? What's happening? And do you ever want to come to Edmonton on a Saturday and deliver a speech or something? Let us know what you'd like to do.
Well, first and foremost, everybody's looking for solutions, and their solutions are to this. We're trying to get prepared through the networks and how we're going to get this. And I'm working really closely with Svetlana now with Ezra Health and Wellness. We have a one in December 27th in Calgary. There'll be a conference with regards to getting Ezra Health and Wellness up and running. We've just obtained a orthopedic surgeon who will be getting on board with the team. So there'll be a conference, locations to be announced. December 27th is Calgary. December 29th is Red Deer. And then I believe December 30th, we're going to shoot for Edmonton. But that being said, you know me, I can be anywhere at any time. I could be halfway across the country within 4 days because I can't fly anymore. But there's an event coming up this weekend. that we'll all be taking part in. But I just wanted to throw Selena this one. This just came through the pipeline right now. Selena, you don't have to drive to GP. Kevin's donated his plane, so we'll be flying up.
Oh my. Nice.
I want to go too.
Double back to get on that plane.
No, not on this one, baby. Not a chance. No, Kevin just texted me. I just got the message here. He says, weather pending. I'll book the plane for GP. My treat. Just need a date. I said, oh, awesome. Thanks. He says, weather pending, of course. Now watch the camera and be good. So we know everybody up there. We know everybody up in GP. We're going to put something together. I can't stand it. See, here's something that me and GP have a lot of history with. GP's written down just like Red Deer. Now, I'm in Red Deer. The layout of the city, everything. I worked in GP for about 10 years. I worked down the Warehouser Road, Grand Cache, up north Beaver Lodge, Sexsmith, Dawson Creek. I damn near moved to GP. I was that close. My office was out of Valley View. So GP holds a special place in my heart. And I love Grand Prairie. Grand Prairie was the next oil boom town next to Estevan, Saskatchewan. And Grand Prairie, we did convoys up in Grand Prairie. If some of you Grand Prairie people remember, we had some of the largest convoys 4.5 years ago were up there. And the amount of support that came from that urged us to push these convoys across Canada. So I would like to get back up there to GP, show our support for everybody in Grand Prairie, and that'll be within the next coming days, or if not, early next week. That being said, I want to speak with all my convoy brothers and sisters about that, and I want to speak to Canadians in general across this country that are watching. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for another convoy. It's time for another convoy to Ottawa, and I'm going to start getting this in the works. I want to get a hold of all my truck drivers that we all worked with on the trip. I want to get a hold of everybody who's got free equipment. If you're willing to provide, if we could provide drivers, we'll represent your companies again. We are going to do another nation-to-nation convoy. I promised Andrew Scheer, I promised Pierre Polyev, I promised Maxime Bernier, and I definitely sent the message to Trudeau the last time we were there. I said, the next time I have to come back here with a convoy, it's going to be a nationwide convoy. So I think it's time. I think it's time, Canada. We have what? I have 60,000 people in my group. You guys have how many people in your groups? If we can even just take 10% of that between everybody's groups and funnel a convoy across Canada, watch out, Trudeau. We need another convoy, ladies and gentlemen, and I mean it. This has to be done. These guys ain't getting away with this anymore. We have to push these politicians back. Jason Kenney, you're just a puppet. I hope you read the letter that was sent to you. And yes, that was courtesy of me. And you're welcome, Mr. Kenney. How much did they cost you to sell our province and our country out? And how much did they pay you to take our children? I'm done. I'm done. This is it. The major event that I'm looking at doing is the convoy. We'll do these little sporadic things around Alberta. But right now we're putting together logistics, fuel, places to stop, all that kind of stuff. We're putting together another massive convoy.
Road trip.
Road trip. Wow.
Oh, it's a road trip.
I can see a lot of people are interested in that already. This is great. We're getting the comments.
It takes a lot of coordination with the RCMP and the OPP. I have to get a hold of Jason Finley again. I have to get a hold of all of them because we're not stopping. We're going to go.
Woo!
There's a lot of pissed off farmers. There's a lot of pissed off agriculture guys. There's a lot of pissed off oil field workers right now. There's a lot of pissed off people across this country. And, well, what better way to do it? Wait till you see that train of trucks rolling across the country, man. It's wild. It's the best feeling in the world.
Well, I hear Worldwide Rally for Freedom is January 22nd. Maybe that could be the day for the convoy. Or did you have another date in mind?
Well, our anniversary for the convoys, the day that we took it across Canada, was February 14th. We left on Valentine's Day for the love of our country. And when we left, it actually turns out logistically wise, the following day when we land in Regina, Saskatchewan, when we cross into Manitoba, it also happens to be Louis Riel Day when we go through Manitoba. So it works out very, very historical.
Wow. Well, thanks for sharing that. We shall look forward to receiving more details on that. That is just fantastic. You guys have all been great guests today. I really appreciate you coming on the show and having this conversation. Thank you to all of you.
It's been great.
Thank you so much.
And Veronica, try and get a hold. I don't know if you have my special digits. Maybe once we sign out of this, I'll give you my digits and we'll have a little conversation.
Yeah, Benita has my stuff. You can connect with her.
Okay.
I'm the connector. That's what I do. I'm a bridge. I do my best to bring people together as well as bring ideas together. And I'm game to hear from people of different trains of thought with regards to the things we need to do moving forward. And so if you have some suggestions for this show about guests we should have on this show or about topics we should cover, your suggestions are welcome. Just send messages to Edmonton Freedom Central. We welcome your suggestions. My name is Benita Peterson. I'm one of the contributors here at Edmonton Freedom Central, and I appreciate everybody so much for taking part of this broadcast, your comments, your shares. Thank you. And of course, obviously, our guests. How about a big round of applause for our guests? And they're clapping at home too, I'm sure. Thank you. And so coming up in Edmonton this Saturday, there is an event at the Alberta Legislature, music at 11:30 a.m., speeches from 12 noon to 1, and then we march. So please dress for the weather. It's another example of a partnership. I'm involved with allfiredupforfreedom.com, plus Alberta for Liberty, plus Edmonton Freedom Central, different groups coming together and working together. We're starting to work together in unity, and it is wonderful. And we appreciate anybody who's game to partner with us. If you'd like to know more about the Team of 12, check out my Facebook page, Benita Peterson. Just scroll down a bit. You'll find the post of the Team of 12 and get started on organizing your Team of 12 and get started on assignments. And there'll be more assignments released soon. So thanks again, everyone, for being here this evening. Don't forget that tomorrow we have 2 shows at 4 p.m. We will be reviewing the new restrictions here in Alberta, the restrictions that the government attempts to impose upon us anyways. So we're going to be reviewing and analyzing those. And at 7 p.m., I have the privilege of interviewing Pastor Archer Pulowski about the Solidarity Project. So we hope you'll join us then. Thanks again, everyone. Please share out this broadcast.
If you ask any girl from the parish around what pleases her most from her head to her toes, She'll say, I'm not sure that it's business of yours, but I do like to waltz with a log driver, for he goes burling down and down Whitewater. That's where the log driver learns to step lightly. It's burling down and down Whitewater. A log driver's waltz pleases girls completely. When the drive's nearly over, I like to go down and watch all the lads as they work on the river. I know that come evening they'll be in the town, and we all like to waltz with the log driver, for he goes burling down and down Whitewater. That's where the log driver learns to step lightly. It's burling down and down Whitewater. A log driver's waltz pleases girls completely. Both my parents I've had to give way and dance with the doctors and merchants and lawyers. Their manners are fine, but their feet are of clay, for there's none with the style of my log driver, for he goes burling down and down Whitewater. That's where the log driver learns to step lightly. It's burling down and down Whitewater. A log driver's waltz pleases girls completely. Now I've had my chances with all sorts of men, but none is so fine as my lad on the river. So when the drive's over, if he asks me again, I think I will marry my log driver, for he goes burling down and down Whitewater. That's where the log